If you're enjoying these incredible true stories, please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you never miss our emotional and shocking tales. Now, let's begin this unforgettable story. Tyler Morrison thought he was hilarious. The 23-year-old college student from California had spent the last 2 weeks backpacking through Europe with his friends, and London was their final stop. They had visited all the typical tourist spots, taken countless selfies, and posted everything online for their followers back home. But Tyler wanted something different, something that would go viral and make him internet famous. Standing outside Buckingham Palace on a sunny afternoon in July, Tyler watched the royal guards with a smirk on his face. His friends, Brad and Kevin, were already recording with their phones, waiting for whatever stunt Tyler had planned. They had spent the morning watching other tourists try to make the guards react. Laughing at each failed attempt to break their famous composure, the guard standing nearest to them was Corporal David Matthews. A 32-year-old veteran of the British Army, David had served 2 tours in Afghanistan and 1 in Iraq before, earning his position as a Royal Guard. His crisp red uniform and tall bearskin hat made him look like something from a history book. But beneath that ceremonial appearance was a highly trained soldier with years of combat experience. Tyler approached the barrier separating tourists from the guards, his phone already set to record. He had seen videos online of people doing outrageous things to try to get reactions from these stoic soldiers. He wanted to do something nobody had done before, something shocking that would get millions of views. His friends encouraged him, their cameras ready to capture whatever happened next. Without warning, Tyler leaned over the barrier and deliberately sneezed directly into Corporal Matthews's face. It was loud, exaggerated, and completely intentional. Tyler's friends burst into laughter, their cameras capturing the moment. Tyler stepped back with a huge grin, expecting the guard to remain frozen, giving him the perfect viral moment to share with the world. But what happened next was nothing like Tyler expected. Corporal Matthews's expression remained neutral for exactly 2 seconds. Then, with military precision and speed that shocked everyone watching, he stepped forward. His white-gloved hand moved to his rifle in a practiced motion that spoke of years of training. His voice, when he spoke, was thunderous and commanding. "Stand back from the guard." Corporal Matthews bellowed, his voice echoing across the courtyard with such authority that tourists 50 feet away jumped. Tyler's grin vanished instantly, replaced by a look of pure shock. The guard took another step forward, his boots clicking sharply on the pavement. "Move away now." Tyler stumbled backward, his face going pale. This wasn't what he had planned at all. His friends stopped laughing, their cameras still rolling but now capturing their friend's humiliation rather than his triumph. Other tourists turned to stare, some looking disapproving, others pulling out their own phones to record what was becoming a very different kind of viral moment. Within seconds, security personnel appeared from multiple directions. 2 Metropolitan Police officers approached Tyler, their expressions serious. Behind them, palace security staff moved with purpose. Tyler tried to explain it was just a joke, just a prank for social media, but nobody seemed amused. One of the officers asked for his identification, while the other spoke into his radio. Corporal Matthews returned to his position with perfect military bearing. His face once again an impassive mask. But Tyler could see something in the guard's eyes that hadn't been there before, hardness that made him deeply uncomfortable. This wasn't just some guy in a costume. This was a real soldier who had been disrespected, and the consequences were becoming very real. The police officers informed Tyler that spitting or deliberately sneezing on someone constituted assault under British law. Tyler's stomach dropped. Assault. He tried to protest, saying it was just a sneeze, just a joke, but the officers weren't interested in his excuses. They explained that deliberately expelling bodily fluids on another person, especially during a time when public health was taken seriously, was a criminal offense. Brad and Kevin tried to defend their friend, but they were told to step back or face their own charges for interfering with police. The crowd of tourists grew larger, everyone now watching as Tyler was questioned. Some people were recording, and Tyler realized with horror that this was indeed going viral, just not in the way he had imagined. He wasn't becoming famous as a prankster, but as an example of what not to do. The officers asked Tyler to accompany them to a nearby security office. As he was led away, Tyler glanced back at Corporal Matthews, who stood perfectly still at his post. The guard's face showed no emotion, no satisfaction, no anger. Just the same professional neutrality that had been there before. Somehow, that made Tyler feel even worse. In the security office, Tyler sat in a small room while officers reviewed the footage his friends had recorded. The video clearly showed Tyler deliberately leaning over the barrier and sneezing in the guard's face. There was no way to claim it was accidental. Tyler's defense that it was just a prank for social media only made things worse. A senior officer entered the room and explained the situation to Tyler in terms that left no room for misunderstanding. Assaulting a member of the military on duty was taken extremely seriously. The fact that it happened at a royal residence made it even more severe. Tyler could be charged with assault, public disorder, and potentially face additional charges related to breaching security protocols at a protected site. Tyler felt his future crumbling before his eyes. He had planned to apply for graduate school, maybe go into business or marketing. A criminal record in a foreign country could destroy all of that. He thought about his parents back home, how disappointed they would be. This trip was supposed to be a celebration before starting his career, not the beginning of his downfall. The officers also informed him that the incident would be reported to the American embassy. As a foreign national committing a crime in the United Kingdom, there would be international documentation of his actions. Tyler's mind raced through the implications. Would this affect his ability to travel? Would employers find out? Would this follow him for the rest of his life? Meanwhile, outside the security office, Brad and Kevin were being questioned separately. They had been recording and encouraging Tyler's actions, which potentially made them accessories. The officers wanted to know if this had been planned, if they had done similar things at other locations, and what their intentions had been. Both claimed they had no idea Tyler was going to sneeze on the guard. Back in the interrogation room, Tyler was asked to write a statement describing exactly what happened and why he did it. As he wrote, the reality of his actions began to truly sink in. He had assaulted someone just for internet attention. He had disrespected a soldier who had served his country, who had probably faced real dangers and real enemies. And for what? A few likes and shares? The senior officer returned with additional information. Corporal Matthews had the right to press charges if he wished. They were contacting him to ask if he wanted to pursue the matter formally. Tyler's heart pounded as he waited to learn his fate. Now completely dependent on the decision of the man he had so carelessly disrespected. An hour passed before the officer returned with news. Corporal Matthews had been consulted during his break. The guard had expressed that while he found the action disrespectful and inappropriate, he was willing not to press personal charges on one condition. Tyler would have to make a formal written apology, perform community service, and agree to have his footage deleted and never posted online. Tyler felt a wave of relief wash over him, but it was tempered by genuine shame. The guard he had treated as a prop for entertainment was showing him more mercy than he deserved. The officer made it clear this was an exceptional act of leniency. Most soldiers would have pushed for full prosecution. Corporal Matthews was giving Tyler a chance to learn from his mistake without destroying his future. However, the officer continued, the Palace and Metropolitan Police were still moving forward with certain penalties. Tyler would be banned from all royal properties for 5 years. He would be fined £1,000 for public disorder and breaching security protocols. Additionally, he would be required to complete 40 hours of community service with a veterans organization before being allowed to leave the country. Tyler agreed immediately to every condition. £1,000 would drain his savings, but it was better than a criminal record. The ban from royal properties meant nothing to him now compared to the alternative. And the community service, he realized, was probably the most appropriate punishment. He needed to understand what he had actually done and who he had disrespected. His friends were given warnings and smaller fines for their part in encouraging the incident. Their footage was confiscated and deleted, though the videos recorded by other tourists had already begun spreading online. Within hours, Tyler's face was appearing on social media, not as a funny prankster, but as an example of disrespectful behavior. The comments online were brutal. People called him entitled, disrespectful, and stupid. Veterans groups shared the video with angry commentary about how modern youth had no respect for those who served. Some pointed out that the guard probably had more training and life experience than Tyler could imagine. Others noted that what seemed like a funny prank to Tyler was actually assault. Tyler was required to report to a veterans center the next morning to begin his community service. He spent a sleepless night in his hostel, reading comment after comment condemning his actions. His friends tried to comfort him, but the damage was done. The trip that was supposed to be the highlight of his college years had become his greatest regret. Fifth document: the next morning, Tyler arrived at the Veterans Center in East London. He was greeted by Margaret, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, who coordinated volunteer programs. She had already been briefed on his situation and made it clear that she expected him to take this seriously. This wasn't punishment for punishment's sake. It was an opportunity to understand what real service meant. Tyler spent his first day cleaning and organizing storage rooms filled with supplies for homeless veterans. Margaret explained that many former soldiers struggled after leaving the military, facing homelessness, mental health challenges, and difficulty adjusting to civilian life. The men and women who came to this center had given years of their lives to serving their country, and many bore invisible scars from their experiences. On his second day, Tyler met some of the veterans who used the center's services. One man, Colin, was in his late 50s and had served in the Falklands. He had lost part of his leg in combat and struggled with PTSD for decades. When he learned why Tyler was there, Colin didn't yell or lecture. Instead, he told Tyler about what it meant to serve, about the brotherhood among soldiers, and about the respect that comes with the uniform. Colin explained that Royal Guards weren't just ceremonial figures. They were active-duty soldiers who had earned their positions through years of service. Many, like Corporal Matthews, were combat veterans. The uniform they wore represented something sacred, a commitment to protect their country and their people, even if it meant standing perfectly still while tourists mocked them for hours on end. Tyler listened, really listened, for perhaps the first time in his life. He heard stories about sacrifice, about watching friends die, about carrying wounds both physical and mental. He learned that the man he had sneezed on had probably faced enemy fire, had probably saved lives, had probably done things that would give Tyler nightmares. And Tyler had treated him like a joke. By the end of his first week, Tyler had met dozens of veterans, each with their own story. Some had served in recent conflicts, others in wars decades past. All of them shared a common thread of service and sacrifice. Tyler found himself genuinely interested in their experiences, asking questions not to fulfill his community service hours, but because he wanted to understand. Margaret noticed the change in Tyler's attitude. What had started as a punishment was becoming a genuine learning experience. Tyler began arriving early and staying late, helping wherever he was needed. He started a social media campaign, but this time not for himself. He created posts highlighting the work of the Veterans Center, asking for donations and volunteers, trying to bring positive attention to these men and women who had given so much. Sixth document: during his third week of service, Tyler received an unexpected visitor. Corporal Matthews, now in civilian clothes, arrived at the center. Tyler's first instinct was to apologize profusely, but the corporal raised his hand to stop him. David Matthews explained that he came to the center regularly to volunteer with other veterans. He had known Margaret for years. This was his community. The two men talked, and Tyler delivered the formal apology he had prepared. But this time it was different from the forced apology he had written in the security office. This apology came from genuine understanding and regret. Tyler explained what he had learned over the past weeks, how his perspective had completely changed, and how ashamed he was of his actions. David accepted the apology with grace. He explained that he had chosen not to press charges, not to let Tyler off easy, but because he believed people deserved chances to learn and grow. He had seen too many young men make mistakes in his military career. Some learned from them, others didn't. He hoped Tyler would be one who learned. The conversation continued for over an hour, and by the end, Tyler felt he had gained not just forgiveness, but understanding. When Tyler completed his 40 hours of community service, He asked Margaret if he could continue volunteering even after returning to America. She helped him connect with veterans organizations in California, and Tyler committed to continuing his work supporting former military members. What had started as punishment had become a genuine passion. Before leaving London, Tyler wrote a long social media post about his experience. He didn't hide what he had done or make excuses. He explained his terrible decision, the consequences he faced, and what he had learned from the veterans he met. The post went viral, but this time for the right reasons. People praised his honesty and personal growth. Veterans organizations shared his post as an example of redemption. Tyler returned to California a changed person. He abandoned his plans for marketing and instead decided to work in nonprofit management, specifically with organizations serving veterans. He stayed in touch with several people he had met at the London Center, including David Matthews. They exchanged emails occasionally, and David became something of a mentor to Tyler. Years later, Tyler would speak at schools and community events about respect, consequences, and the importance of honoring those who serve. He always told the story of his terrible decision at Buckingham Palace, and the guard who showed him mercy when he didn't deserve it. He talked about how a single moment of stupidity almost destroyed his future, but how it ultimately led him to find his true purpose. The video of Tyler sneezing on the royal guard remained online, a permanent reminder of his mistake. But Tyler had learned to accept it as part of his story. It showed where he had been and how far he had come. When people recognized him from the video, he didn't get defensive or make excuses. He owned his past mistake and used it as an opportunity to talk about growth and redemption. Corporal David Matthews continued his service as a Royal Guard, standing at his post with the same dignity and professionalism he always had. He never spoke publicly about the incident with Tyler, considering it a private matter that had been resolved. But among his fellow guards, the story became a reminder that their restraint and mercy could sometimes teach more powerful lessons than harsh punishment ever could. The lesson Tyler learned that day outside Buckingham Palace was one that shaped the rest of his life. Respect isn't just about following rules or avoiding punishment. It's about recognizing the humanity and sacrifice in others, especially in those who serve. What started as a joke that was no laughing matter had become a turning point that transformed not just Tyler's future, but his entire understanding of what it means to honor those who protect and serve their communities and countries,